expression at the UN for the enormously important input he gave to the initial drafting of the Charter. And we are very thankful that Frank LaRue was able to bring this idea to the UN table that human rights for the online environment are actually need recognizing and implementing. Because things have changed. Young people understand privacy in different ways, for instance. Privacy has become an even more important issue for how we can actually express ourselves, interact, and get things done online. And a lot of these issues are both new, are both even more politically complex, technologically complex, economically complex. But many of the issues that the Charter contains are very, very, very old. Old in the good, ripe red wine sense of the term. They are issues that will be with us for time immemorial. The right to say what you wish without being put into prisons. So here we are 5 years on, and today I want to enjoy hearing how the Charter itself has become something that people are using in different parts of the world and across different sectors. I hope that gives you enough of an introduction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marion. That was terrific. We'd like to move on to Gareth Hughes. Welcome, Gareth, remotely.
Yes, thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Can we have it a bit louder, please? Yep.
Sure, I might have to speak up a tad. Can you hear me better now?
We can. Sounds great.
Oh, brilliant. Well, kia ora, ngā mihi nui kia koutou kia ora from down in New Zealand. With me is Brittany Travers. Brittany's a recent graduate from Otago University with a law degree. She's worked with me intensively over the last year in developing our Internet Rights and Freedoms Bill and working with me through the process. So it's great to have Brittany join me. I'm at home. We're in the middle of an election campaign. We have an election in 17 days, so I've taken a night off from the campaign, and it's a real privilege to be able to participate, and I wish I could be there in person, but with our election, I can't. So I'd like to talk to you about what we've done in New Zealand. So about 5 months ago, we launched our Internet Rights and Freedoms Bill, the first bill ever crowdsourced by a political party in New Zealand. And what we wanted to do was very much embrace the IRP's charter, which is to protect offline rights in the online world. So the inspiration for our bill and our process is, of course, the UN IRP's charter, the growing online global movement for internet rights. We researched intensively what was occurring in other countries and inspiration. Our Law Commission in New Zealand has done some good work on privacy, and being a parliamentarian in our parliament, what I've seen is law passed by politicians who don't understand the law regarding the internet that they're passing. We're seeing a growing digital divide in New Zealand and a gradual erosion of our online rights and privacy, particularly through mass surveillance, which has been a controversial issue in New Zealand. So the Internet Rights and Freedoms Bill contains 3 key parts. First is we've Rights Commission, someone with the expertise in the internet rights field, someone with the staff to advise them, someone to enforce and protect our online rights. This is very much marrying up what we've seen protecting offline rights in the online world. We've proposed the same enforcement powers and provisions as the existing human rights commissions, but what we wanted to do was have a specialist in this very interesting and important field. So we've received very positive
in the Charter in the New Zealand Parliament and moving it forward. Terrific. Now we're in Group 1 projects that have directly implemented the Charter. I'd like to move on to Carlos.
So thanks, Robert. This is Carlos Afonso from ITS in Rio. So I'll be very short, and I think my contribution here is much more to tell a short history about how the Charter and the work of the Internet Rights and Principles Coalition end up impact very domestic and on a national level experience. So I think most of you know that Brazil approved Internet rights. So we have a law that deals with fundamental rights in the internet in a very broad sense that was approved in Brazil in April this year together with the Net Mundial. So I believe some of you are aware about this law and maybe even tired of having Brazilians coming up to every single IGF to talk about our own initiative on fundamental rights in the internet. But this is the very first IGF in which we can come here and say, hey, this law has been approved finally. So my very quick contribution here is just to tell you that how the work on the charter on the internet rights and principles end up impacted this national level experience. So the Marco Civil was approved this year in 2014, but there is no coincidence that when the IGF was held in Rio in 2007, we had this very interesting meeting for the Internet Rights and Principles Dynamic Coalition that at the time used to be called Internet Bill of Rights Dynamic Coalition. And there was a lot of important rights that are featured in the 10 principles of the Dynamic Coalition here in the IGF. And I can mention a lot of them, such as right to privacy, net neutrality, freedom of speech that appears all over the place in this legislation. I have my own, like I would say, favorite provisions from the Brazilian Internet Bill of Rights. I would quote just two that are very broad but very important in a way, because apart from talking about net neutrality, privacy, intermediary liability, open standards, and a lot of other very hot topics, this law has a provision that says, in the interpretation of this law, it will be taken into account, in addition to its principles and objectives, it will be taken into account as well the nature of the internet, its common usage, and the importance of the internet to the promotion of human, economic, social, and cultural development. So this is a very strong provision that we have in the federal law now in Brazil. This is Article 6 of the Brazilian Internet Bill of Rights. And Article 7 says the access to the internet is fundamental to the exercise of citizenship. And then it goes on talking about the rights to privacy and everything. So this is just to make the connection between the work on the international level, on the 10 principles and the charter, in a very practical, domestic and national level experience, which is the approval of the Marco Civil. And I really have to say, it's
into Turkey is just a custom issue. It has nothing to do with the content, but we have designed, I'm not sure if we can display it on the screen so you can see it, we designed a campaign based on the 10 principles in a simple way to be promoted in the Arab region with the intention to build capacity about internet rights online. We launched 2 versions initially, both in Arabic and English, and we have like 5,000 or 6,000 endorsements so far for the 10 principles. In our case, we work mostly in capacity building and introducing the concepts of what are human rights online. And I think it was really a great experience to test, the ground and see what is the knowledge gap that is existing in the Arab region. We are not at the level of discussing these principles with our governments because it's a quite long shot at the moment. I mean, what's happening in the internet sphere in general is not encouraging governments in the Arab region to be pro-internet rights and so on. So it's a long shot. I think civil society has a long way to go before they can be in a position to sit down in the same table with governments to discuss whether we should have human rights online. So the work that we do is very at the basic level of bridging the knowledge gap as far as internet rights are concerned. We know we're kind of doing a good job because somehow we got a lot of feedback from communities and organizations we're working with, and we're trying to scale the work for people to take the lead locally to promote these principles. And the good point is that we have a lot of local organizations on board who are willing to localize even more the content, because the Middle East and North Africa is not only about Arab-speaking countries. We have the Farsi-speaking countries, we have the Kurdish communities. So I was really excited when I got requests from organizations liking our job that we're doing, because we put a very simple design to show why people in the Arab region should care actually about human rights online, and they just decided they want to translate the content into, for example, Farsi to outreach the Farsi speaking communities in that region. And we got also Kurdish, and for the first time I got to know that we have 110 million Kurdish-speaking people, and I think it's great. So the point is to translate the work, scale it locally, widespread the word about internet rights online. And I think the more we engage people in the discussion, where at the very basic level, they will be more aware that they can actually advocate for these rights. The intention is to be able to be on the same, level with the government, so we can convince them that we have to do something about preserving the basic rights in the case of the Arab region, which is freedom of expression. This is something that is of a prime concern with regards to human rights online. I mean, I know that a quite difficult patch, and that happened because ultimately social media and the internet helped, providing a platform for people to express themselves. But I have to admit that what happened in the region is kind of causing a reverse effect. So I don't think we have more freedom now because unfortunately, to the very tough political situation, the governments are more kind of on a hard line side of implementing policy. So at the moment it's like a transition phase, and people using the internet at the moment have to can feel the effect of the decisions of different governments in the region. I mean, from Tunisia launching the IG in the Middle East, and the programs we're implementing at the moment is with the prime kind of aim to bring more people to the discussion. This year we tried to have a fellowship program for civil society from the Arab region to come to the global IGF to immerse in the discussion and be more exposed to this kind of environments. And I have to admit, being to the IGF for 9 years now, this is the first time there is a large group from the Arab region, from civil society, who made it here finally. So it took us 9 years, to kind of bring that important segment of the internet user from the Arab region. And I think we have a long way to go, but I'm very confident that we will get there. Maybe, I don't know, in the case of Brazil it was 7 years, maybe. I hope it will be the same for us, and we can be at a level where we come back here and say, well, you know what, we have convinced our governments to either adopt a Bill of Rights or, and be online. Thank you.
Thank you, Hanan, for bridging the knowledge gap, taking the lead at the local level, at the grassroots, to help implement these principles in the Middle East and North Africa. I also want to give recognition to Hivas, which is responsible for translating the IRP Charter.
He worked on it, and Dixie Horton. So I'd like to thank them once again for their devotion to the topic. And I think it is an excellent example how we all can team up and how we can hammer the human rights issues from different angles, different perspectives, and feeding into each other's different activities. And I would say that generally speaking, the internet is no exception when it comes to human rights. You have to have a long breath and you have to be a marathon runner. And so the more we team up and we get copies and take a look, basically it has 3 parts. The first part is the hard part, so to speak, of the soft law, and that is the commitment expressed by the member states, the commitment to the principles. And it is a compilation of the existing standards. So they should stop it here for the moment. I stand ready for any other questions you might have, and I would let you know that we have a Council of Europe stand up at the village, where my colleague Olivia is there. English, Turkish versions, so please, you can also find other material there. And we were a bit more lucky with our guide. We didn't have to pay ransom to get it here, but Lufthansa tried also to do everything to make it difficult for us, and we arrived very late last night, so we could only pack out our boxes this morning.
Hi, sorry for this delay. I'm Serhat Koç. I'm an independent information technology lawyer and I'm from Turkey. I will be speaking as the spokesperson of Pirate Party, and as, of course, myself as an independent information technology specialized lawyer. And I like to talk about Turkey's internet code and our struggle with it, and some comments on it. And if you have questions while I'm talking, you can always ask, or after this meeting you can ask, because it's a very hard to understand some points. So I would like to begin with my speech. I will read it, in fact, so you can ask me anything, I can reply you. In fact, as outlined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. This is so clear. This is this one sentence, but this is so clear. Everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. This right includes freedom to have opinions without interference and receive information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers. Yeah, the Pirate Party fights for this, in fact. But the law number, we call it 5651 in Turkey. The law number 56, the following means. In February 2000, amendments made to law number 5651 for URL-based blocking of internet content. We argued that with URL blocking, the extent of censorship will be less visible to internet users, because while court orders were previously displayed on the blocked websites, in the new system, we won't be able to see any warning. Even the website owner cannot know which court order is blocked, is his or her website. So, leaving visitors to speculate about why they cannot access a website. People even won't be notified about what has been access to blocked websites and content, such as proxy sites or VPN services. Frankly, the government and Telecom Authority of Turkey emailed ISPs about... Is it over, or do I have time?
10 seconds.
10 seconds. 10 minutes, 10 seconds?
10 seconds.
10 seconds, okay. Yeah, I'm skipping the conclusion. They emailed ISPs and told that please do your best to prevent people accessing the blocked websites via VPNs, proxies. Even they hijacked OpenDNS and Google DNS in Turkey. And the other thing that I must declare, in fact, the amended version of this law number.
Okay. I want to say some words about the law number 5651, because Serhat Koç mentioned some issues. Some of the information mentioned by him were not correct, in fact. First of all, it's not tracking and monitoring of information of internet users. Additionally, the main objective of this legislation is to protect children and young people from harmful content in the online environment.
Any other comments to that or questions?
Hi everybody, my name is Wolfgang Benedek, University of Graz, Austria. I was also involved in this process, which was explained earlier, the elaboration of the charter and also the translation of it into German language. But what I wanted to react now...
Some of the things that we are seeing in Latin America and maybe around the world is that judges and rule makers not always translate human rights standards to the online environment. That is why we are talking about human rights and the internet. So since we are working with law students, I think that the best way to give you some sort of vision of what the new lawyers are thinking on the charter is to read a couple of comments that I received from the papers of my students. One comment says, the charter's aim is innovative as well as commendable. It is written in a succinct manner which may make the document accessible. Important things that the charter delivers and the challenges as well. Of course, the aim of the charter is not to solve all the problems. It's a document that is a reference that could be used as a reference, but the aim is not to solve all the problems. I think that this will be the
principles trickle down to the national level and make their way in legislation. So talking about the Charter, I think we would very much agree with Eduardo's students in general. And very briefly, I think I'd like to make 3 points in relation to the Charter. The first point is how it can be used to inspire more work and awareness on internet rights in other regions of the world. What we see very often is proportionate principles on the application of international human rights to communication surveillance. So Article 19 was involved in this work, which is very much a group civil society effort with the Electronic Frontier Foundation, Access, Privacy International, Bits of Freedom, Center for Internet and Society in India, and many more. And I'll refer to the document to see like all those who've been involved in this. But really to look at the issues that come up when trying to change surveillance laws and practices on the ground. And we're very much involved also at domestic level, for instance, in the UK, and so far as Article 19, we're seeing a net neutrality coalition beginning to form, so there's much more to come. Finally, just going back to the Charter itself and looking at it from an international perspective and, you know, looking at it as a living instrument, I think the Charter is likely to be good to have like a regular review due to, in part, technological developments. So, for instance, one of the things we've seen this year developing is on the right to be forgotten and how to balance that with freedom of expression. And more generally, in order to...
On Thursday at 4:30, the IRP Charter 5 years on, and I invite all of you to join that meeting. I'd like to introduce now Helga Mieling, Director of Transport, Innovation and Technology, Austrian Government.
Thank you so much, and thank you for a kind invitation to this distinguished panel. I would like to underline the crucial role of the Charter in the framework. Is it too loud? I'm sorry. On the left side? No? Okay. I'm sorry. As for a success story, I would like to important to have a common reference like the Charter. Therefore, it was a neutral tool, a legal basis of already existing relevant human rights based on a valid, effective legal basis. And this was really very, very useful. I submitted the Charter to the drafting group, Mr. Markus Kummer, and he was really very, very surprised to find that most of the work had already been prepared. So for the wording, for recalling, for documentation, the Charter provided clarity, legal clarity. And this is indispensable. A minimal consensus on internet rights and human rights, however, does, in my opinion, not imply downgrading. States applying a higher degree of protection of human rights should certainly not downgrade their level of protection under rule of law. On the contrary, this should rather be an encouragement for positive development towards a higher standard of global level. And the Internet Rights and Principles Coalition could facilitate the process for consensus building and promoting human rights and human freedom. Perhaps a closer cooperation could be envisaged with other fora, such as the Freedom Online Coalition. But I have to say that our group here is a multi-stakeholder group and should be considered as a common forum for exchange of opinions. We should certainly avoid duplication of efforts but gain synergies and cooperate to safeguard coherence, transparency, and multi-stakeholder participation. In the view of the transition of process of ICANN, a coherent new version of the Charter could contribute as a possible new global standard if applied by the new organization managing the Internet.
Shared economic growth. Providing people the access to the information is access to reality, but blocking constant media research. It's the same as absence on access to Internet. Statements for your consideration to ICE by law. We should consider that each individual have the flat right to the Internet, without which it cannot access to Internet is a basic human right in cyber age. Yours truthfully, Alexander Tsaruk, Ukraine.
Thank you for that. Do we have other comments or questions for the panel? And specifically speaking to challenges of implementing the rights, the Charter.
Yeah, I just have one question. I'm just wondering whether in putting the Charter into the law, whether there is any attempt made to develop mechanism to monitor and evaluate the successes of the Charter, implementation of the Charter. Thanks.
It's a very good point.
Other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Courtney Raj with the Committee to Protect Journalists, but my question actually comes related to this idea of translating these principles into other languages, and it's not just about the translation of the Bill of Rights, but of the terms and the concepts, like governance, for example, in and of itself is a hard term to translate, for example, into Arabic. So how are you linking the translations that you're doing, and how are you drawing on other projects that have to do with multilingualism on the web? And specifically, there's a UNESCO initiative, I know, to develop a terminology for internet governance. A glossary for internet governance terms. I know there are some local efforts.
Governance, it becomes even more challenging because people think that you are talking about government controlling the internet, and it's not, the outcome of the discussion is not usually very fruitful. So yes, I mean, when we do the translation, obviously we try to do a translation of the concept and not literal, and for that we use people who are quite experienced in the field, and I do the proofreading myself because I'm very familiar with the concepts, you know, and you know, the field in general. What we did for the Arabic version is literally we focused more on the principles, like we provided the translation into Arabic, but obviously the terms can be a little bit challenging for, you know, the grassroots we're targeting, and that's why we focus on providing actually a design. Now, Click Rights campaign is focusing on the 10 principles, and if you look at the design, people can relate to what's going on in the Arab region and why the government is trying to control information and why people should care actually about, you know, preserving their rights online. So we try to deliver a message in a simple way, and we get help from, you know, trying to translate these concepts in a simple way, but we also have a group of designers helping us delivering the information to this segment, you know, of the internet user, because in the Arab region, I'll be frank with you, I mean, internet almost equals Facebook. So for millions of people in the Arab region, internet is
challenge for the what I call the formal translation from one document in English, for example, to a document in Spanish. But I also talk about translation in another sense, which is how judges or rule makers translate concepts, values that are in the offline world to the online world. So the Charter helps to do this kind of translation as well, to understand that the content, the rights that we have in the offline world should apply in the offline world. And this is another view of I mean, this is...
We have started a big program with Ukraine with the help of the EU. The EU is footing the bill. And we have a team in place now in Kiev for this program with 5 people. And it has 3 components. One is media, one is data protection, and one is everything around the internet. And so very concretely, in this program, we are running then a lot of activities to really get the shared set of values across directly to the people concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia, for that. Marion?
Yes, thank you for the input. Very briefly, every translation has been a team effort. The German
translation, but the legal translation also. And I'm thinking about the importance, for instance, to use some kind of documentation that already exists. For instance, I'm trying to think about the last report of the rapporteur from the Inter-American System of Human Rights regarding the Internet and human rights. And I think that's kind of the most important documents that we have in hand to just improve what the charter has been made in the past, and then suddenly to have a more concrete structure for advocacy, for law professors and practitioners and so on. So I think that is the kind of thing that makes this charter important in the way that we can actually use it, regionally speaking, for improve our human rights structure.
Can you speak into the mic for the remote participants, please?
Oh, is that it? So one thing that I'm increasingly occupied with at national level is the long travel from formal standard setting into users' access to actual remedies, which is always a challenge with human rights, but in the online sphere, it's a huge challenge. So I think we need really to focus more on that. We focused some on it in the Council of Europe work on internet users' rights, but also in this context. I think it's very important to hear all these different national examples of how the standards of the Charter have been translated at national level, and I think we should really collect these experiences and have them on the website, but also increasingly move into the access to remedy problematic, so to speak. So how are we dealing with that at various national contexts, and what are some of the experiences that people have? Because after a while in these discussions, you also get a little bit tired from discussing standard setting, and you increasingly hear from users that, okay, yes, you have these standards, but once I have an experience of a violation in a concrete setting, I don't really have a lot of places to turn to.
That's a great question. Thank you very much.
The norm of living, the way of living, so maybe different. And one more of this, I would like to encourage you to maybe enhance the important role of educating the people or the new people to pay respect to the right of the other person also at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Well, I'd like to have some responses to some of these questions now.
Okay.
Asia Pacific, our next challenge and invitation is to a team to undertake the Mandarin translation of the Charter. We are finding that the Charter booklet is an extraordinary way to open up the gates for people in specific regions, and to have it in your own language. So Xian Hong, I think that is a very important point. It needs to be in Mandarin, needs to be in Thai, needs to be in Indonesian, and then you can start work. Linking to UN organizations, those are next steps. The coalition itself will be meeting on Thursday afternoon to discuss exactly what to do next within the resources and time we have. In terms of content issues and updating, this is a very, very important stage as well. That again will be Thursday afternoon. And there was one more challenge that somebody asked. Oh, remedies. Yes, Rika, that's extremely important. I think we need to move not just from principles to action, but from actually...
Public side, there are a few, not enough. We need new, innovative remedies, so you're all called upon to contribute, but also to use the existing ones. Thank you.
Wolfgang, for that. Thank you, Wolfgang. For the sake of time, I would invite you all to ask questions either on Twitter or face-to-face or in our upcoming workshops. We have a workshop on Thursday at 11 on anonymity by design. Thursday in the afternoon, the Internet Rights and Principles Charter, 5 years on, and it would be a great time to meet and to join our coalition. And on Friday at 9 a.m., online freedoms and access to information online in partnership with Freedom House and Pirate Party Movement of Turkey. And now I'd like to introduce a very exciting announcement, a soft launch, if you will. Marion?
Yes, Serhat and Bertu, are you in the room? Celine, are you in the room? Could we please have up the Turkish cover? This, as we know, this is the soft launch, a soft landing, and you will see the beautiful blue booklet shortly with us, and also the click rights material as well at the HEVOS booth. Translations are a work of art. They are legal undertakings. They are hard work, and all our translations have been done with extraordinary commitment, engagement, enthusiasm and energy. So we would like to now formally launch the Turkish edition, the very first Turkish edition of the Charter of Human Rights and Principles of the Internet, with huge thanks to Bertu Bakliolu, excuse my pronunciation, Serhat Koç, and Celine. Okay, who decided that the first version wasn't good enough and they had to improve it. So there's always room for improvement. We think this is incredibly an important development. And at 9 o'clock, bring your coffee and your bagels if they're available, or your lovely Turkish version. And please support the Pirate Party Movement Turkey in the very only workshop at the IGF where we will be featuring grassroots, local lawyers, Turkish activists. Please debate, please support, and there we will show you the charter booklet in Turkish in real meat space hard copy, because print is good. Print is good. People need print. But also digital is good, because now we can also show it here. So it's not an either or. I'd like a big round of applause to Serhat, Celine and Bertu for all their work. Is that okay?
Now I'd like a big round of applause for our panelists. Thank you very much. Please let's continue this discussion, and thank you very much for your participation and your attention.